Welcome everybody to another edition of WCW 2006 here in TEW 2020, and guess what, folks? It's time for Slamboree 2006 live from the North Charlotte Arena in beautiful Charlotte, North Carolina for a little over 18,000 people. And before I start with the pay-per-view, a little update. It seems as far as changing over TEW 2020, a strong majority wants SummerSlam 2006 or later. So that's what we're going to do. We'll book these last couple months. This is May now, so August is a good ending point. We'll change over in September. So probably another like 2-3 months, plus that'll help with any further like bug fixes, so it's nice and stable. Don't mind if something funky happened to my other save, but this sort of wants to be perfect. But anyway, we're off to the show as we open with our opening video as is tradition, with highlights of the three-way, basically building up, RVD's attack on Eddy and AJ Styles. Then we get highlights of the various qualifiers for their aerial assault. Alyssa winning the women's title and set up for Nikita versus Alyssa. Wright's attacks and Goldberg's return. O'Hara's turn on Angle, and various quick clips of the other big matches, including Monty and Judas, Raven and the Babyfaces, and so on and so forth. And overall, this little opening video gets us a 69. As we go to the opening of the show, as the entrance put over, we're going to start out nice and strong with aerial assault. And it's a big match here as we have 4 teams. The World Champions going into Booker T and Shelton Benjamin, Billy Kidman and Shane Helms, Legendary, Ninkyo, and Rey Mysterio Jr. and Matt Sydal. And this is a match straight from the start that's just a wild fight as you expect, as they're getting aerial assault is basically TLC, slightly renamed, and it's back and forth pretty quickly for our first big spot of the match, as Rey and Sydal are both basically hit by Cat and Yang, and Ninkyo grab both of their opponents here, and it's huge double suplexes on the outstretched ladders on both men to temporarily take them out. The brawl continues. Eventually, Kaz and Yang get a bit of an advantage, start to climb up the ladders, but Shelton, who's been on the outside, Kaz and Yang are beating down Booker on the outside. Shelton hits a big suplex, runs up the ladder, and hits a big springboard crossbody onto Kaz and Yang on the outside to a big pop, but causing both men to be down for the moment. Booker and Shelton, Booker takes advantage and fights with both Kidman and Helms. Kidman gets a little bit of some heel heat, going after Booker. Booker fights back, tosses Kidman to the outside. Helms comes from behind, big super kick, hits the big Nightmare in Helm Street, sets up a ladder, begins to climb it, but that table was being set up by Kaz and Yang earlier. Booker attacks, is able to get the advantage, climb up, grab Booker, and bookend off the ladder through the 2 tables onto Shane Helms. Big stuff on that, but almost immediately Kidman comes in for the attack. But then Yang and Sydal, working together, allies for the moment, come back, get of revenge, and eventually Booker and Kidman are set up on the ladders on the outside, and big double 450 splashes by both Yang and Sydal onto Booker and Kidman, 2 and 4 world champions, and things are all chaotic. But eventually, we go back and forth again, both teams going after each other, or actually all 4 teams going after each other. We get some quick spots, with Shelton going off the ladder, getting powerbombed off it by Helms. Helms trying up, getting shot by a double team from Kaz and Yang, getting a double super kick on him, and he falls off. Things continue to break down, but eventually Kidman, comes in, hits a big kid crusher on Booker off the ladder, essentially taking him out. He climbs up slowly, but just as he's at the top of the ladder, Rey Mysterio Jr. hits a springboard, or Rey Mysterio Jr. climbs up to the top, jumps, and is able to hit Kidman with a Hurricanrana off the ladder to the floor, or to the mat, and both men are down. Eventually, things are slowly coming back down, and eventually we get a big Tower of Doom spot as all 8 men are down. As we're a little under 20 minutes into the match. But, both ladders are up. Kaz is climbing the side of one ladder. Yang is climbing the side of the other ladder. Rey and Sydal are up first, and they get up to the other ladder. All 4 men are on the top. But, as Rey and Yang are at the top, Yang looks like he's about to win, but Rey hits a big headbutt and a sunset foot powerbomb off the top of the ladder, taking out Yang. That distracts Kang yet just long enough for Sydal to hit a big couple forearms to knock Kaz off. And Sydal climbs the last couple runs and grabs the belts. And yes, Matt Sydal and Rey Mysterio Jr. are your new World Tag Team Champions. So yeah, Booker and Shelton's reign longer than I thought ends here at Slamboree, 88. Yang gets a 76, Kaz gets a friggin' 97, Sydal gets a 74, Wright gets a 93, Helms gets a 91, Kidman gets a 93, Shelton gets a 79, Booker gets a 68. Let's see here, any other spots? Yeah, so I sort of threw some various spots and people do it, but the big moment here is Matt Sydal and Rey Mysterio Jr. are your new World Tag Team Champions. 75, and there we go. And next up, it's a war of a former mentor and a former student, at least in the eyes of Gail Kim, but Alli Danger thinks she never needed a mentor and turned on Gail Kim about a month or so back, saying she doesn't need it. And these two women fought to a draw at the last pay-per-view, and now here they're at Wrestle War in a no mentor needed Falls Count Anywhere match, and the battle is right from the start, and they're fighting all over. Like, this match is not going in the ring for long. It immediately goes to the outside, scrambles, we get to the outside area, Danger going after Kim, hitting a big running knee on Kim on the outside, hitting a step up enziguri as she's trying to get up, throwing her over the ring announcers area into the crowd. The fight continues through the crowd with security to block them off. They eventually into the back and bowels of the arena. Gail Kim gets a little bit of advantage of coming back, hits some big brawls, fighting all over, hits her with a sends her in the backstage area over by the concession stands, actually hits a DDT off one of the sort of off the area of the concession stand onto Alli Danger for a near fall. Actually locks her into a guillotine choke onto the floor of the arena, but Danger fights out of it. Danger fights back with her own brawling, sending Kim into the walls. They go into the women's bathroom fighting. We get a spot where they go. Danger tries to drown Kim in a sink with some water in it. Kim fights back, hits a big sort of sleeper slam onto Danger. On the bathroom floor for a near fall. The fight continues. We go basically through the concourse up to the top, off the top ramp. We get sort of a tease of them going off the top of the concourse, but they eventually fight back down to the ring. Danger looks like she has the advantage. Goes for a big pile driver on the floor. Kim gets out of it. Is able to hit her with a big sort of running drop kick. Sends her back inside. Goes up top with a top rope rana. Picks her up. Eat defeat. She's stumbling. Air raid crash right in the middle of the ring. 1, 2, no. She barely gets her foot on the ropes. And she wasn't as to the ring as she thought. The fight continues. Gail can go for another. Danger turns into a reverse DDT. Sends her outside. Hits a big suicide dive onto Kim. Kim scrambles. Goes for a chair. Danger ducks under. Hits her with a big hits her with a big kick of the gut, hits her, nails her with a DDT onto the chair, sends her inside, step enziguri right to her face, and then picks her up and nails her with the eat defeat of her own with a smirk, and then she picks her up and locks her in a guillotine choke right in the middle of the ring, and with nowhere to go, Gail Kim almost taps out, but she barely gets to the ropes as she gets dragged back to the middle by Danger. Kim goes for a little bit of offense, but Danger throws to the outside, drills her with multiple chair shots, and when she throws her in, pile driver right in the middle of the ring. 1, 2, 3. Match itself gets a 79, 82 from Gail Kim, 60 from Alli Danger. Big win here. I said as a cheating just because she didn't actually get a pure clean win. Also, it helped with the whole thing where Gail Kim was very upset about losing here. But good stuff. And Alli Danger gets a huge win here at Slamboree over Gail Kim, and she celebrates to a 56. And next up, it's another big women's match. It's a match for the women's tag team titles as the social scene of Nikita Radcliffe and Annie Vidal take on the European Disney team of Maulie, Mayhem, and Wesena Busic. A quick note, I used the wrong graphic. I used the Danger Kim graphic from the prior match. I clicked the wrong one. It's still a Danger. I screwed up, not the on the world there, but just in case you're wondering what happened there. Anyway, this match, pretty simple setup here. Mayhem, Busic got a couple, wins, including, I believe a win in a 6-man tag against Social Scene and Alexander. Mayhem has been officially inducted into the European Union, despite not being European. And, that's a match. And pretty straightforward, tag match here. Social Scene, start off hot with some, brawling and fighting. Radcliffe, comes in as sort of the power wrestler. Hitting some big boots and some slams. Vidal gets to, do a bit of roll, it's a sort of springboard, head scissors. There we go. Forgot to move there for a second. Goes for social disorder on Mayhem early, but Mayhem blocks it. Mayhem goes for own brawling, but eventually Radcliffe is back in. The two bigger women get to a fight. Eventually Mayhem cheats and tags in Busic, and Busic, does her technical stuff to get the advantage on Radcliffe. Radcliffe eventually goes to power out, but Busic draws her back in, but eventually, hot tag to Vidal. Vidal comes in, hits this big sunset flip powerbomb on Busic for a near fall, goes for her modified sun or social disorder, actually nails it, but Mayhem breaks it up. Things break down to a big old brawl. Eventually, Radcliffe nails Mayhem with the big implant DDT, but she's not the legal woman, as the referee tells her. And as the referee, as Radcliffe is upset about that, Mayhem, Busic nails her from behind, and the distraction there allows Mayhem to come in, drill Vidal with one of the title belts, then hit her with a big powerbomb. 1, 2, 3. Your winners and new WCW Tag Team Champions of the Women's Division is the European Union team of Mayhem Busic. This gets a 72. 63 for Busic, 55 for Mayhem, 73 for Vidal, and 69 for Radcliffe. And post-match, Maulie and Wesena celebrate the titles, which gets us a 49. So, yeah, just like with Booker and Shelton, they held the titles for a lot longer than I thought, but this is the time. And there's some interesting happens with, hopefully, for the women's tag team division that I hope people will enjoy as we move forward. Same thing with Kim and Danger. Danger gets the big win here, though she wasn't happy about it, and the tag titles need to change. Now we're moving on to a big old match here, which is going to be a little different than you'd expect. Of course, Sean O'Haire turned on Kurt Angle to join the Thrillers at the prior pay-per-view, and that means Kurt Angle's made a warpath since then. And here's the thing: Kurt Angle, O'Haire comes out of the ring, very pleased with himself, even with Dyson Havoc of the One Percenters at ringside. And then Angle's music hits, and he comes down pissed, and he's here to do battle. As actually he runs through big suplexes on Dyson Havoc to knock them down. O'Haire comes in with some brawls at the start, big brawling at the start, to try to gain an advantage. But as O'Haire picks it up for hits a big boot and goes over a clothesline, Angle actually blocks it, and then it's suplexorama. He has a couple big suplexes, hits him with a big belly, locks in the ankle lock. O'Haire barely gets to the ropes, but Angle just throws him around again. O'Haire throws him to the corner. Dyson Havoc actually attack him on the outside to gain a little bit of advantage. O'Haire goes for the Widowmaker, but at the last second, Angle turns into a DDT, rolls through, German suplex, Angle slam, ankle lock, right in the middle of the ring. Nowhere to go. Sean O'Haire has nowhere to go and has to tap out, as Kurt Angle gets the win in dominant fashion here at Slamboree in under 10 minutes. Match only gets 74 because it was short, but 96 for Angle, 82 for O'Haire, and I forgot to throw a storyline on. So this could have been like a 80. Oh well, not the end of the world. But yeah, Angle gets to hold on for a minute before releasing as the crowds cheer, and Kurt Angle gets a big win on here at Slamboree and a measure of revenge over Sean O'Haire. Next up is a big old match as the Nest of Raven, Redrum, the former Jonathan Dorov, and Prophet take on Ken Anderson, Brother Ray, and The Truth. Of course, this has been going on for months. They went after The Truth, knocked him out for a couple weeks, but going after Ken Anderson, Brother Ray. And, Brother Ray and Raven fought in a big hardcore war on the previous Nitro, and now the 6-man has been set up. And, this is just a complete and total mess from the start. This is just this total chaos, total mayhem. We got chair shots, we got cane shots, we got tables being pulled out, we got chains, we got everything going on as the ref is just letting things go. But it looks like it's going to be the babyfaces early, as the Prophet gets nailed with a big powerbomb from Brother Ray. Then Truth getting his flippy elbow thing. Anderson coming with some brawling of his own. But Raven comes in with a Singapore King going after all three men. Things break down again. Redrum gets a power out and be a little bit of a monster for a couple minutes, including a big giant sit down powerbomb on the Truth for a near fall. Anderson comes in. Anderson and Redrum fight. Brother Ray fights back, going after Raven. They fight up into the up on the ramp area. Raven actually hits a big DDT on Brother Ray, right at the top of the ramp. Goes in. It's a 3-on-2. It looks like the heels, the baby faces are going to fall. Brother Ray comes in after being out for a couple minutes for the big save, as he actually stops a big double team pile driver on the Truth, not going after all three members of the Nest. Raven gets sent out. It's just Redrum in. Brother Ray actually comes in and hits a big Brother Ray bomb on Redrum, but then Anderson comes in and he actually wants to pick him up and goes for his own finisher, but Brother Ray stops and says, he's ready for the pin. They fight for a second. They are not really fight, but they argue for a second. Brother Ray backs off. Anderson picks him up, hits him goes for the what are we calling it? Mic check, right? Yeah, goes for the mic check. Redrum elbows out of it, hits a DDT. Brother Ray hits a big lariat on Brother Ray. Brother hits a big lariat on Redrum, and then turns around and hits a Brother Ray bomb on Ken Anderson. Redrum gets up, hits the finisher. 1, 2, 3. What the hell? And yes, the heels get the win when Ken Anderson gets turned on by Brother Ray. This gets a 78. Redrum gets a 65. Profit gets a 63. Raven gets a 75. Truth gets an 80. Brother Ray gets a 78. Ken Anderson gets an 84. Brother Ray's held by the chaotic nature, which for a guy who was in ECW for years doesn't make sense, but whatever. And let's handle some changes. So first, let's turn Brother Ray heel. Hurrah. And let's change his gimmick. Okay, cool. And then post-match, the beatdown continues. As the Truth comes in, shocked, asking what the hell, as Nestor slinks away, and he gets dropped with a big right hand from Brother Ray, who picks him up, hits a Brother Ray bomb as well, and he walks out of the ring as the boos come out, as the announcers are confused, as Brother Ray seemingly turned his back on his allies for the past couple months, frustrated with them, and wants to perhaps go on his own path. As this gets a 69, as he walks away, and there we go. So obviously you've seen the notices, and this is part of a balancing act, and also he's done what he can do. He's sort of been frustrated since basically the end of last year, and that's where we are. Well, he turns heel finally, and there we go. Next up is sort of a thrown together tag match, as of course last week on Nitro, Southern Syndicate were basically upset, about not being part of the aerial assault. AMW, AMW got made by Southern Syndicate for not being part of the aerial assault. AMW fired back, and eventually, there was an argument, and the match was set up for Slamboree. AKA, I wanted two of my better teams on the TV show. Here we go, Southern Syndicate. Of course, I've been a quickly rising team since Rick Gordy's debuted after 2 injuries in a row, basically. Kept him basically out of the ring for a year, and now he's back, with Noble, and they've been very impressive. But they're facing off against perhaps the best tag team of one of the best tag teams of the, basically post Turner era, of the save of AMW, multiple time tag team champions, and AMW show their skills off wrestling, a couple big double team moves on the Southern Syndicate to dominate. Chris Harris does some brawling with Ray Gordy at the start. Gordy actually gets a couple big moves in, including a big German suplex, hits a neck breaker, then goes up top for a leg drop, but Chris Harris gets out of the way. The big tag to James Storm. Storm comes in with a big spear onto Ray Gordy, hits him with a high knee, actually hits a a double knee facebuster to knock him down, and then locks in a sling blade on Gordy, essentially sort of to send a message to Noble that he can do some in-ring, wrestling his own. Gordy eventually gets to the ropes, but as he breaks up, as Storm lets go, Storm goes low, tags in Noble, who goes to work on Storm. Quick drop kicks to the knee, takedowns, various holds that Storm gets out of, but Noble has, Noble takes him back down, goes for a cross armbar, but Storm powers out of it into a big slam, and he comes over and big tag to Chris Harris. He comes in a House of Fire. goes for the catatonic, but Jamie Noble turns it into his own move, and then he hits a big modified belly to back suplex on the larger Harris, hits a couple big drop kicks to knees, takes him down with a fireman's carry to a big gut buster, tags back in Gordy. Gordy goes up top, diving leg drop for a near fall, and then he picks him up for a tiger suplex. Chris Harris fights out of it, but then Gordy locks him back in. Big powerbomb a la his father for a near fall, but Storm makes a save. Things break down to a 2-on-2. Storm and Harris actually get the advantage on Gordy. Hit the big bearhead running lariat for a near fall, but Noble comes back in. Storm tries to come in for the save, but gets stopped by the ref. That allows Gordy and Noble to hit a quick double team, but Harris still kicks out. Harris eventually makes the big tag to James Storm, who again comes in. Big last call super kicks to both Noble and Gordy. Goes for the 8-second ride. Boom. 1, 2. Noble makes save at the last second. Storm goes after Noble, but Noble goes low on him. Gordy picks him up for another big powerbomb, but Storm actually turns it into a DDT. Tag back into Harris. Things break down again. Storm and Noble are actually on the outside. Storm and Noble are on the outside. Noble sends Storm into the ring post, comes back in. As Harris is going to go for the catatonic, he comes in, takes Harris's knees out. As the ref is checking on Storm, Ray turns it into a big, Ray falls down, puts his foot on the ropes. Ref turns around. Noble holds ropes. 1, 2, 3. Southern Kit get a big one here at Slamboree in a little over 13 minutes. For that, a story list 74. Storm gets an 83. Harris gets a 79. Gordy gets a 67, and Noble gets an 82. And post match, the heels celebrate as the announcers put them over as perhaps the fastest rising stars in the tag team division today. Yeah, I mean, that match probably could have got like a low, maybe high 70s, low 80s if I would have thrown a story on it, but shit happens. What can you do? Regardless, next up is our big Cruiserweight title match. Of course, this is a rematch as Cassidy has been a fast rising star from WCW since arriving only a few weeks ago. He went right after Maverick Chance, but Chance, gave him a title shot. Chance got the win, but Cassidy attacked afterwards, and now he's, here getting his rematch with his manager Mysti. And I mean, this match is exactly what he expected to be. Maverick Chance, aka Matt Cross, flying around. Cassidy being the slightly bigger wrestler, trying to use some power, and Mysti's interference to keep things slowed down. He hits a big, couple big suplexes. Hits a big tiger bomb for a near fall. Tries to lock him in some submission moves, but Chance fights out. He hits some big savate kicks. He hits the gets out of a big power bomb attempt by Cassidy into a DDT, goes up top, hits the double diving knee drop thing too as Chance gets up for a near fall. Hits a corner drop kick on Cassidy, slow him down. Hits a big tornado DT, but O'Reilly turns it into a power bomb for a near fall. O'Reilly sets them up for a running lariat, but Chance turns it into a crucifix for a near fall. Mysti gets up on the ringside, the ring apron. Chance comes over to yell at her. O'Reilly comes out on, gets back the advantage. Actually goes for another big gut wrench powerbomb for a near fall. Hits a big super kick for a near fall just under 3. Chance fights back. Again, Chance hits a couple of big moves. Actually hits a big Frankensteiner from the top rope on the Cassidy. Goes up top for the 450. Mysti gets up on the apron. Ref tries to stop him. But what's really distracting is for Titus Tomko of Titus Tomko Righteously to come in and wallop Chance on the knees with the briefcase. Maverick Cassidy runs up. Second rope DDT. Ref turns around. 1, 2, 3. Your winner and new Cruiserweight champion is Cassidy O'Reilly. So yeah, 76, really good Cruiserweight title match. 71 for Chance, 62 for O'Reilly. The storyline helped out. Let's see, was there anything else really helping it? Nope, that's about it. And post-match, Maverick, Mysti, and Titus celebrate. as he enters under if this is a more permanent arrangement, or did Titus Tomko just do a job tonight? Help. Oops, that should be Cassidy, not Maverick Chance. God damn it. I'm sometimes, I write things and I blanked on them. Yeah, never mind. That should be Cassidy, your new champion, celebrating. But hey, anyway, regardless, 69 would maybe be a 67 or 68 with Cassidy, so I'm not complaining that match. What a big moment here as we have new Cruiserweight champion, and it's Cassidy, who was one of the hottest free agents in the business before we signed him up. And next up is a big rematch for the women's title as Nikita Kalt tries to get back her women's title back from Alyssa Alexander 2 months ago. Of course, Alexander got the big win and won her first defense, but now she's facing off against the former champion. And now Nikita's basically from forthright that she's going to win the title belt, and that she is still the dominant wrestler in the women's division here in WCW. But Alexander wants to prove it wasn't a fluke and keep her title. And right from the start, it's a slow build here. Kalt using her wrestling skills, using her slow build skills to sort of keep Alexander grounded and keep her from really getting some momentum here. Takedowns, holds, blocking submission holds, working on her back, all that good stuff, locking in bow and arrow. But Alexander slowly fights back. He's able to fight back with some big suplexes, hit a big lariat, hit a big sort of reverse German suplex, hit a STO for a near fall, pick up Kalt for a Samoan drop, but Kalt turns it into a hold of her own. Alexander fights out slowly, hits a big spine buster for a near fall, but she's right by the ropes, so Kalt gets her foot on there, but then Alexander brings her out, big standing suplex, and then locks in an inverted cloverleaf. But Kalt slowly but surely powers out of that. Goes back on the attack on Alexander. Goes after her back, picks her up, big backbreaker, another big backbreaker. Goes and then another third backbreaker. Takes her up to the second rope for one of her big icebreaker finish, backbreakers. But Alexander blocks it and actually hits her with a big second rope superplex, which leaves both women down. Alexander slowly gets up. Goes for the spine buster, but Kalt locks on a guillotine. Kalt slowly tries to lock her in before going for her, for one of her many submission maneuvers. But Alexander slowly gets to the ropes. Alexander fights out, barely getting in the ropes. Kalt tries to pull her back in the middle. Alexander rolls through, surprises her with a big spine buster, which she gets a pinfall on. Kalt, as she's getting up, goes low, busts her eyes, takes her up to the top rope, goes for the big top rope backbreaker, but again, she blocks it into a top rope sunset flip powerbomb, and then she rolls through with a bridging hold. 1, 2, 3. Alyssa Alexander keeps the belt here at Slamboree as she gets 63. Kalt gets an 83. Metro Raw gets 76. And yes, if you're wondering, she was also upset about jumping this time, so time to write another check. But post-match, Alexander celebrates with the belt, which gets a 54, and still, your women's champion is Alyssa Alexander. Man, you ever do a lot of an example of a match, and then you just realize at the last second? So, okay. I just did a long description of the match and realized I wasn't taping it. So, okay. London Evans, the Thrillers, 2 teams. Thrillers have been rising, gaining in power since O'Hare turned them eventually. London Evans has been fighting off. And this is a very, typical, as you'd guess, babyface, underdog babyface versus strong heels tag team match straight from the start, as London Evans is a top-on healer from the start. And honestly, I feel sort of upset over talking for minutes. So I'm just going to digress this, unfortunately. We get London Evans getting some double team moves, quick top from the top. London going crazy with the drop salts, the enziguris, the dives. He gets slowed down by going for a suplex on the much larger Jindrak, who goes back on his own offense. Tags in Palumbo, who takes apart London for a bit. Eventually, Evans gets packed in, and we get a 2-on-1 on Palumbo. But then Evans, does his own stuff. But then Palumbo tags in Jindrak. Jindrak works on Palumbo. Things go to the outside. London hits a big wild dive through the ropes onto both men. All 4 men are down. Eventually, Jindrak actually is working on Evans, with a bunch of big moves, goes for his mark of excellence. Evans turns it into a small package for near fall. Then he rolls through, hits a big, shotgun drop kick onto Jindrak to knock him down. Jindrak is going to tag him Palumbo, but Evans barely gets a tag into London, who both London Evans pull Jindrak back right into the middle ring. Palumbo comes in, but he runs in at London Evans. They pull down the top rope. Palumbo goes over the top. Evans does a wild 630s corkscrew senton, whatever you call it, onto Palumbo to knock him down. Jindrak slowly gets up. Evans nails him with a sort of springboard DDT. Goes up top. London calling. 1, 2, 3. Massive upset win here, as London Evans gets the win over the Thrillers in 16 minutes. When London pins Jindrak with London calling, this gets a 96. Honestly, because I think the storyline is really hot. It's funny they don't work well, which kind of makes sense, but anyway, London gets an 81, Evans gets an 84, Palumbo gets an 87, Jindrak gets a 76. So I think this was just, hot crowd, and Roy didn't work, so just really hot crowd. So really good stuff here. And post-match, as, it looks like the heels are going into revenge, Kurt Angle's music hits, and out comes a very angry Kurt Angle, going after Palumbo and Jindrak. Palumbo slides through the ropes and gets to the outside, but Jindrak is there, and he gets nailed with an Angle slam before he rolls out of the ring to the cheers of the crowd, as, Angle helps London Evans up, and all three men raise their hands to the cheers of the crowd, which gives us a 76. And next up is a pretty straightforward match here, as we got Ray Leppan versus Lance Storm for the U.S. title. Storm, of course, former U.S. champion, multiple time. Ray Leppan recently won the title. He thinks he's cocky, based international star. Lance Storm is Lance Storm. And honestly, this is a pretty straightforward match. Storm uses his technical skill, beating with. Leppan uses his power to get a bit of advantage. Leppan hits a couple big. Storm hits a couple big super kicks to gain the advantage, locks on the Canadian Maple Leaf right in the middle of the ring. Leppan gets through the ropes. Storm actually goes for a big Tiger Driver, but Leppan powers out of it. He hits a big Samoan Driver, and then eventually gains the advantage. Storm goes wild, rushes in. Leppan gets out of the way, and then he's able to hit a sort of a modified Fisherman Driver to pick up the win in a little over 10 minutes. Nothing fancy here. Actually, basically clean win here. To allow Leppan to look basically not a total joke as a champion, and plus Storm can take the loss here. Pretty solid match here. Nothing fancy. Wish I could tell more, but not much of a story here. Just pretty straightforward win here for Leppan on pay-per-view. As it gets an 82, Storm gets a 76. Leppan gets a 70. Storm gets a 64. Leppan gets a 76. Good stuff. Again, nothing fancy here. Just a straightforward win here on pay-per-view. As, Leppan celebrated after gets a 73. Fun stuff. But I wish I could say more about it, but it is what it is. And now it's time for one of our big three matches here, as it's Monty Brown and Judas Mesias in a Sanse death match. Of course, Mesias was under the control of Vampiro as part of, as part of Deadpool for years. Eventually, Deadpool broke up, after their battle with the Nest, where the Nest won. Mesias walked away, eventually returned as a babyface, after refusing to basically lay down. Mesias eventually returned as his own man, went after, but then as part of the Revolution roster, got into battle with Monty Brown, as Mesias also returned to Puerto Rico to cleanse his soul of the darkness, was told he needed to do one last thing. And as part of that, release the darkness, he needed to make an offering to the gods, and that gods would be off in the form of a Sanse death match, aka Barry Light match. Let's not be silly here. As it's going to be Monty Brown versus Judas Mesias after they fought to a draw last week. And from, this is an absolute war. This is nothing fancy here. This is just two big men kicking the crap out of each other for a little over 11 minutes, just big brawls, just nothing fancy here, pounces early, choke slams early, but eventually, we sort of have a sort of set up circle where there's a grave, and sort of basically a pile of dirt. And again, it's buried alive under something slightly different, but it is what it is. A big old fight, big old brawl. We get some quick teases of it early, as Monty actually goes for a pounce, but actually Judas Mesias gets out of the way, and Monty Brown ends up in the grave. He goes to do the final bit of sacrificing, but Monty Brown stops him, climbs out, the brawl is on. Monty Brown actually picks up Mesias in a big slam and gets him in there, but Mesias fights out. Eventually, we get a table spot. We get a big brawl again, but this time Monty Brown avoids, goes back on the offense. We go back up to the top of the ramp as before. This time, Mesias actually goes for a big powerbomb off the ramp into the sort of the setup by the ramp. But Monty gets out, basically gets out of it, stops him, goes low, sends him into the, goes into the screen setup, and then with him stumbling out, big pounce off the stage. Mesias falls off right into the probably now gimmicked up burial ground. Mesias buries him, and it's over. Your winner of the Sanse Deathmatch is Monty Brown. So, 12 minutes, gets a 90. Honestly, I was thinking this being the semi-main, but I was worried about him. I should have been. Honestly, this might have been a better idea as the semi-main. But it was what it is. 84 for Judas, 87 for Monty. You're going to be asking, hey, Jesse, you turned him face. You put him in his own type of match and you had him lose. Well, sometimes the booking for bigger stories means you sort of have to screw people over, and Mesias is that guy. But I got him back over. This is a really good match, and he'll have things to do in the upcoming months. And Monty stands tall, as the announcers put over. We just may have to call him the baddest man on the planet from here on out. Now it's time for our semi-main event, and a measure of revenge here for Goldberg. He gets on out Wright. Of course, he walks out to the ring to the cheers of the crowd as Wright is in the ring waiting for him. No attack from Wright, as Wright knows is going to happen this time. But Goldberg, he actually got a measure of revenge against Alli right before, but Wright, was able to sort of sneak his way away from a total victory. And Wright's been on a warpath basically since the end of the year, going after him in Rey Mysterio Jr., Cody Cesaro, and of course Goldberg himself. But Goldberg's here for one last battle. But Wright is ready, and as the bell rings, Wright actually is ready for him, and actually as the bell rings, Wright goes low and drills Goldberg's knee with a big sort of running dive right at it, sort of like you see in a football game by a bad player trying to take out a player's knee. And he gets a bit of advantage at the start, and he goes right after the knee. He just continues to go attack it for the opening bits of here, but he still can't quite knock Goldberg down. Goldberg fights him off, but Wright goes back on the attack. Eventually, Wright gets enough of offense in where he sets him up, single arm DDT, and he goes and lock on the STF, but Goldberg powers out immediately, stands back up to the cheers of the crowd. Wright's basically scared, goes out of the ring. Goldberg chases after him. Wright comes back in, and as Goldberg is coming in, Wright runs him, running knee, picks him up, single arm DDT, but Goldberg no-sells it. Spear, jackhammer, 1, 2. No, he picks him up to the cheers of the crowd. He sends him to the ropes again. Boom, another spear. Picks him up again, jackhammer, 1, 2. No, he picks him up again. Sends him to the ropes. Boom, spear, jackhammer, one more time. 1, 2, 3. So yeah, pretty straightforward squash here. I'm not going to be fancy about it. This was just complete revenge. Gets an 80. Like I said, should have had Judas Mesias and Monty as a secondary, but I thought maybe his star power would be enough to get it up, but still, good stuff. 86 for Goldberg, 81 for Wright. I mean, honestly, for being really honest, that random tag should have been the semi-main, but I never would have guessed that. But good stuff here, as Goldberg, gets his revenge. I had Goldberg dominate, which basically was that. He cheated to gain the advantage. He ran away, gained another advantage. But outside of that, he got his ass kicked. So there we go. Goldberg gets the big one here. And Goldberg stands tall to a 71. And now it's time for our main event. As we got 3 of the best in the world here tonight. And it is, the sort of match you expect here. All 3 men come down. RVD with the boost of the crowd and Paul Heyman. Eddy with mostly boosts, but some cheers because he's Eddy Guerrero. And of course, AJ Styles, the face of his place, the world champion, coming down to the ring. And this is the 3-way dance you sort of expect here. Sort of we get some early stuff back and forth where we have RVD and you get Styles and Eddy teaming up on RVD to start with, including some double team moves. But quickly, Eddy then goes after AJ. RVD goes after Eddy himself, and we get some back and forth between those two. We get some brawling back and forth. And eventually, things go to the outside with Eddy gets sent to the outside, RVD hitting a big dive on him, and then AJ hitting a big dive on both men. Back inside, AJ takes advantage. Actually hits a big Pele kick on Eddy on one corner of the ring. Then hits an handspring elbow on RVD. Hits a discus clothesline on RVD for a near fall, but RVD kicks out. AJ actually sets him up, hits the crucible hold into a DDT for a near fall. Then goes for his sort of like phenomenal blitz move where he hits the punches, kicks, followed by a spinning back fist, but RVD ducks under, hits his own kicks. Sort of like a kick and link drop fest between both men, but eventually RVD gets the advantage on that. Actually, it's a big Northern Light suplex for a near fall. Sends AJ into the corner, hits him with a big running clothesline. Bulldog, so like moonsault for a near fall, but AJ kicks out. RVD actually goes up top for the 5-star frog splash, but Eddy sort of just distracts him just long enough for AJ to gain the advantage. The answer is put over that that Eddy wants both men to sort of tire each other out. In these early signs, AJ comes up, runs up, running top rope, belly to belly suplex a la Shelton. AJ then goes, back on offensive himself. Actually goes for the springboard moonsault onto the standing opponent, but RVD is ready for it, and actually turns that into a gutbuster. RVD picks him up for a sit down powerbomb, but AJ turns that into a Rana. AJ then tags Eddy back in. Eddy goes after RVD. Eddy, does his own offense, goes for the Blue Thunder Bomb, but RVD blocks that, goes back on offense. We then go back to another three-way breakdown. Eventually, things break down as, we're looking at all three men getting some quick spots where they hit one of their specialties, but then, getting a quick kick out and then tagging out. We got RVD hitting the split leg moonsault on AJ, but then tagging out to Eddy. Eddy going for a gory special, but AJ turning into a sort of rolling reverse cradle, and then he locks in the calf crusher, but Eddy eventually gets to the ropes. Eddy then goes low, hitting AJ with a big brainbuster and going for the frog splash, but AJ gets his knees up. Slowly but surely, AJ tags in RVD, and then this is where things get interesting. As RVD comes in, basically House of Fire, picks RVD up, picks Eddy up, hits him with a big couple spin wheel kicks, hits the big split moonsault for a near fall, goes up top for the first 5-star frog splash of the evening, nails it. 1, 2. No, Eddy barely gets his foot on the ropes. AJ's pissed. RVD's pissed, yelling at the ref. Heyman gets him on the ring apron after sliding a chair in the ring. RVD grabs it, throws it at Eddy, who catches it. RVD goes for the Van Deminator, but you can't throw Eddy Guerrero a chair and expect it to turn out okay for you. Eddy ducks under, kick to the gut, brain buster on the chair. Eddy goes up top after kicking the chair away. Frog splash. 1, 2, 3. And about 15 minutes in, Eddy Guerrero eliminates Rob Van Dam, and now AJ Styles comes in, and these two men get to finish what they started a few weeks back on Nitro before RVD got involved and set up this three-way dance. And AJ's the fresh man, so he actually comes in at House of Fire, actually hits the phenomenal forearm for a near fall, sends Eddy to the outside, hits a big springboard dive onto Eddy, playing underneath babyface, throws him back in, phenomenal DDT for a near fall, hits phenomenal blitz, but as he goes for the 6 lariat, Eddy ducks under it, hits him, Blue Thunder Bomb, picks him up again, brainbuster, no, Eddy turns into slides down, German suplex, AJ goes to the outside, phenomenal forearm again, picks him up, Styles clash, but no, Eddy fights out of it, picks him up into a electric chair drop, but AJ turns that into a rolling first cradle, and then he rolls that into a Styles clash. 1, 2, Eddy gets his foot on the ropes to a big pop. AJ picks him up again. He goes for a Styles clash in the ring, but again, Eddy fights out of it, turns it into another electric chair drop. AJ goes to turn into a Frankensteiner, but he turns into a sit-down powerbomb. Eddy picks him up again. Brainbuster. Eddy goes up top for the frog splash, But AJ recovers, goes up top rope Frankensteiner, rolls through, Styles Clash, 1, 2, 3. Your winner, and still, WC World Champion is AJ Styles. Like always with this game, I'm either getting 99s in main events or I'm getting 80s in main events. 95 for RVD, AJ is 87, 94 for Eddy. So that should have been, if we're saying like maybe a 92. Like it says here, so the only bad stuff was inconsistency, poor gimmick, and fatigued, and then low heat for the storyline. So I'm going to guess basically we would have got like low 90s, but we got hit by the storyline, which isn't the end of the world. Honestly, that's on me for not basically boosting it, but ain't not the end of the world. Still let's just say this was a like awesome match with a kind of dead crowd. Honestly, Charlotte does not appreciate it, but AJ celebrates 74, and overall the show gets us an 82. Okay. Yeah, we sort of blew it. Like our two best matches. So actually, we're going to give this to Judas. We're going to give it to Chuck Palumbo, and we are going to give it to. Honestly, let's give it to Eddy. So yeah, not our best show ever there, unfortunately. I really think if we would have rearranged things, and maybe if we wouldn't gotten nailed for the low storyline on the main event, we could have gotten that up to like an 85 or an 86 for a show. But hey, shit happens. What can you do? Oh well. Let's see here. We'll let this run through. Suwa, he's not bad actually. Not as good as he probably was in real life, but still pretty solid. We'll see what email we're getting, and then we'll go from there. Do a little quick storyline check, a title check, and then we'll finish things out here for Slamboree. Oh, Stevie Ray was okay. We got some. Yeah, okay. Oh yeah, Teddy Hart, who is basically sitting out his contract, got flabby. That's hilarious. Yeah, I know. We still got a million buys though, so we got that going for us. What is our broadcast? I'm sure this was just one-off just because some bad luck, but Time Warner. Okay, we were off by 2 points. That's fine. Anyway, so yeah, quick checks. Let's see here. AJ. Okay, cool. Well, wait. Now yeah, okay, so he went up in there. So yeah, he's up, really getting there. Alli Danger. How were you helped up by beating Gail Kim? Okay. You're at least now actually legitimately up there. Let's see here. Who else? Goldberg, you're still great. Alex wasn't hurt by the loss here. Cassidy was helped a bit by being on pay-per-view winning a title. Palumbo, did you get hurt by losing? No, you're fine. You're Palumbo. You're fine. Let's see here. Eddy. Eddy lost by 2 points doing the job and not the end of the world. Gail Kim, how are you feeling? Okay, so you didn't even lose that many points. But you are annoyed, so we can deal with annoyed. Jack Evans, you actually gained a couple points, so you're up there. Okay. Let's see here. I'm blanking on people. Who else? Judas Mesias. Okay, yeah. He's somebody who we probably need to rebuild a bit because he's been stuck in this high 70s. Let's see here. Kurt Angle, you're freaking great. Sydal, let's see here. How much did you get help by winning? Okay, 2 points. That's good. That's good. Maulie Mayhem, did you get help by winning the titles? Probably not. You're actually up to actually reasonable to be on TV. Let's see here. Monty Brown. Ooh, okay. Unfortunately, 84 might be his pop cap. Ooh, Paul London gets back into the 85s thanks to the big win. That might be the most. No, I think he was over even more. Let's see here. Oh, I missed out on so okay, Canderson, do you get okay? I think you've been a little hurt. Yeah, not really. You're still doing great. Nikita Gold. Let's see here. Okay, I mean she's lost a little bit, but like not only from like her top of the tier. I forgot to check on Alyssa. Let's see here. How did you get helped? Okay. Again, slow bits here. Let's see here. I mean, Ray is great. Van Dam. I don't think Van Dam lost anything. Yeah, he lost a point, literally. Okay. Nobody else we really care about. Yeah, nope, that's it. Cool. Quick storyline check. So, Against the Darkness, which will be changed here, gets a 79. Captivating Nitros at a 68. Conflict Collides at an 82. Mysti's and Mavericks at a 72. Never Noble, which is our big tag team feud, is at an 80. Brother Race the Truth is at a 74. Revenge of the Man's at an 82. Best in the World's at a 77. I don't know what happened here. I guess because of the bad 6-man, maybe? Challenges Everywhere got a 76. Expanding Horizons at a 77. Legendaries at an 84. 78's Danger Kim. Thrilling Angles at a 93. Mesias Brown is at an 86. And yeah, okay. So maybe that's our real. If we don't like have a lot of like super hot angles, we just have a lot of like quasi hot angles. But anyway, your world champion is still AJ Styles, who has had let's see here, 6 defenses. Your new world tag team champions are Rey Mysterio Jr. and Matt Sydal. I forget if let's see here. Is this his first world tag? No, okay. He has a bunch, obviously. Right, I forgot he had the long reign with Kidman in my world, and then with Wright. Okay, I thought so, but I just totally forgot. Your world champion is still all that Alyssa Alexander. Let's see here. Your US champion is still Leppan. Your Cruiserweight champion is Cassidy already. And that was our... Okay, so we've been on a hot run of Cruiserweight title defenses. Your New Women's World Tag Teams are Mayhem and Busic. Of course, Busic held the titles originally with Nikita Kalt. And still your TV champion is Sunny Siaki. So, let's see here. Track progress. Yeah. So, that's it for now. Next up is Great American Bash, which I believe is a Nitro show. Yeah, it's a Nitro show, so we'll go with that. You know, not our best pay-per-view, but shit happens. What can you do? But yeah, that's it for now. As I said at the top of the show, we'll be doing this on TEW 2020 through SummerSlam 2006. Then starting in September, we'll move over to TEW 9 to wait for, obviously, basically, I want one more shot at booking Impact and WWE in TEW 2020. Then we'll see how well they're doing or not doing booking on their own TEW 9 and then go from there. But aside from that, that's for now. So if you enjoyed this, go ahead and leave a like, comment below what you're liking and not liking. Subscribe to our channel for this, my TEW 9 series. Running beautiful PSW. And maybe some other stuff might pop up, but that's for now. Talk to you later, and adios. Have a good one.